Everybody, good to see you guys. I hope you're having fun. I know I am. Welcome to the party, guys. It's good to see you all. Today is Friday, the 10th of June, and we are rocking and rolling, getting things going. Give me just a second. I'm going to deal with some of these technical dramas in just a second, guys. I've got to get logged on to my other Wi-Fi connections, and that's going to be more stable today. Have as much drama as I anticipate having if I don't make this switch right now. So I just got to figure out how to do it. There it is. Okay. All right. So I'm on my personal hotspot. See if I can't log in just a second. You guys might deal with a little bit more of a technical drama as I do this, but I want to make sure that we have a great show today. I don't want any interruptions because we got a lot to talk about, a lot of good stuff going on. Okay, we should be pretty good, at least pretty stable today. This is Coffee, Tea, You, and Me. As you all know, this is Coach Powell. We're Coach Powell Training Development. I am with you 100% of the time, 24/7, globally, around the world. I am looking forward to having a wonderful show today. Today, we got some excellent ideas and some topics we're going to talk about. We are going to be doing the next part in our series. If you all been following us for the last couple of shows, we've been talking about the magic of TrueVOICE. And TrueVOICE is one of these crazy acronyms I always come up with all the time, right? And one of the beautiful parts about this particular acronym is it's a system that I set up for a very specific reason. As many of you know that I established the 9 Steps to Mastery, almost 20 years ago. And this was a great process in order for people to get into, to establish professional and business relationships. So anytime you want to get together with a person and you want to invite them on your advisory council or manage them better as they're on your board of directors, or develop mentorships with other people, or any type of sponsorships, or any types of anything that requires a closer relationship than a transaction alone might want to bring you to your business or to your life, you can use the 9 Steps to Mastery in order to solidify, create, identify, and do everything you need to do to manage that professional relationship skillfully. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert. It doesn't matter if you're an extrovert. No matter what your characteristics or personality types are, you can use the 9 steps to mastery. If you ask me, I'll definitely dedicate that to the chat if someone's interested in the 9 steps to mastery. But here's what I found out in the midst of developing the 9 steps to mastery. I discovered that it does require that you are already in the relationship. In order for you to start off well with the 9 steps to mastery, you have to already be in a relationship with someone. And that doesn't help you if you need to establish relationships, if you need to create strong relationships, if you need to identify relationships from scratch. And then what do? So I decided to figure out, okay, how would you engage with somebody that you truly want to be in a relationship with? What would you need to know to heighten the level of trust and awareness that you have with them? What kind of questions might you inquire of them? What kind of things might you develop that will help that relationship or facilitate that relationship if it's a person that you don't even know? And I thought, if I could have an opportunity to establish a relationship from scratch with a brand new person, and I needed to get to high levels of trust right away, what questions would I ask them? And I came up with probably 16 of the most dynamic questions that you can ever think of. And then it's from years of consulting and years of work with other professionals, and I've developed these questions. More so, I've kind of put them together. I can't say I developed the question. I'm not the first person that asked these questions, but I'm the first person to put the system together the way the system is put together in order to establish a couple of things. One, it establishes high levels of trust right away. So if you're a person and you're using the TrueVOICE system to interview another candidate or somebody that you want to develop a professional relationship with, no matter what you want that relationship to be or do, starting off with the TrueVOICE process is a way to start that relationship off correctly and start it off right. And it's basically an interview that you would give to another person. So after about, I would say, 10 years of training and developing the TrueVOICE process and teaching people how to use it, how to establish relationships with it, I began to dawn on me that as I was conducting the research and conducting the training and even using the process myself with clients and referral sources and people that I was networking with, I began to realize that, well, these same questions that I'm asking someone else, they probably want to know about me in the same way. And I found it to be true, because almost every time I did a TrueVOICE interview, people would start asking me the same questions that I just asked them because they're similarly interested in me. The law of reciprocity was kicking in, and people wanted to know the same information about me that I was trying to gain about them in order for me to develop a trust in them. They wanted to have the same information about me. And I found that when I was ready to give them that information and I can articulate that information exceptionally well, the level of quality of relationship moved from 0 to hero in no time. I mean, it didn't take time at all. And so TrueVOICE dispels a lot of myths about relationships and what it takes for you to get into relationships and how fast and the speed in which you can do to get to high quality relationships. And so if you're thinking about, if you're out there, if you're thinking about going into a new area in your life, if you're thinking about developing new relationships and you know you're going to have to get there, I would suggest that you study the TrueVOICE approach. Really, really embrace it for yourself and make sure that everything that you're doing when it comes to developing your professional relationship starts from these things. Because if you start from the process of TrueVOICE in a relation and developing your relationships, you're going to develop those relationships from a solid footing instead of a relationship that's based on something superficial, like a transaction or, the Super Bowl, or, just something that you both like. Something that you both like is a great thing to establish a relationship with on. But there are people that you want to be in relationships with that don't like the similar things that you like. But you need to figure out a way to build camaraderie with them anyway. So what do? You try TrueVOICE. So the last couple of weeks we were working on it. We started with the overall thing, what TrueVOICE is all about, and what it accomplished was the major benefits of TrueVOICE. And then we went into the first module of TrueVOICE, which is really vision, opening up and talking about how you explore vision, how do you use vision, how do you take vision to the next level. And then we're going to talk about today, what we're talking about is obstacles. Obstacles are critically important to the TrueVOICE process. And next week, we're going to be talking about intuition, instinct, insight, those things that make your personal advantage grow over anything else. I found that when you do the TrueVOICE interview and you use the TrueVOICE interview as an assessment of yourself, what tends to happen is you become more solid about your ideas and where you're going and what you want to do. And you become really, really able to articulate your thoughts and your feelings in terms of what you want others to do with you, for against you, whatever it is you're trying to do with other people, and how are you trying to build and maintain and structure a relationship, you'll find that True Voice is a great process for you. So let's get into today's topic. I'm going to start off with a bit of a branding session, and I want to make sure I pay attention. You know, my good friends put these wonderful videos and stuff together for me, and sometimes I even forget to use them. But I'm going to try. I'm going to use this one this week. Check it out. Okay, everyone, this is Coach Powell welcoming you back. Today we are talking about this next module in the True Voice series. It's called the obstacles module. And I like to look at obstacles in a very, very unique way. And you'll find that as we go through the module, and some of you all may have already been accessing it on in the comments box. I'm going to repost it here just in case you get it. You didn't catch it, and you need to catch it. This is today's training. You can take this. It's on the Google Drive. You can take it, download it, do whatever you want to do. You can't change it. I hope you don't change it. But feel free to use it as much as you want. It'll stay up there. It'll be posted, forever. And it's basically a training module. It walks you through everything you need to discover about obstacles from every particular angle that you can think of. And we're going to go through a lot of it today. We're not going to go through all of it line by line, obviously. But I want you to understand that there's a hard science when it comes to dealing with obstacles. And when you think of obstacles that are facing you in your life, there are a couple of truths that we're going to acknowledge and we got to talk about, because if we don't, then you're going to make the mistake of thinking that somehow, some way, your obstacles are so unique and so significant that they only affect you. And you're the only person that's ever had to deal with these problems. This problem, can only be resolved by you, because you may be the only person experiencing it. And the truth is, there is no problem under the sun that others haven't experienced. They may not have experienced it from your perspective, but trust me, almost every problem that you're going to come up with, somebody else has already faced it, dealt with it, wrote it down, really figured out what they're going to do about it. And the data of how they handle that problem exists somewhere in the universe. And so it's very, very important for you to understand that, because you might think that this problem is everything. It's the only thing. It can never be overcome. And I will tell you, every problem has been overcome that other people have dealt with in the past, or they've either figured out some kind of coping mechanism or some strategy in order to deal with that problem. So there's no problem that human beings can't handle, either individually or collectively, especially collectively. Once we get our minds together, once we start wrapping our ideas and thoughts around the problem, we can generally handle it. And so the first thing I want to share with you about an obstacle that you're dealing with, whatever the obstacle is that this obstacle is just one of many. And this obstacle, like everything else in your previous past, will absolutely end. Whatever the problem is, it's going to be over at some point in time. It's not always going to be there. I love you guys so much, and I want to make sure that you recognize that it's hard to be in business for yourself. It's hard to be a leader. It's hard to be invested in your community and invested in the success of others. This is a very, very difficult thing to do. It's a very selfless act when you decide that you're going to open up your own shop and you're going to do things your way, and you're going to drive a process or a product out into the public space and into the market space, and you're going to reap the rewards for having done so. So it's not as easy as it is for me to say it, and those of you entrepreneurs definitely can understand that. But I want you to know that obstacles, any kind of obstacles that you're going to deal with, you're not the first person to ever deal with them. You're not the only person that's ever going to have to deal with them. Obstacles are happening. There are things that happen in the universe, and there's nothing, and I mean nothing, that anyone can do to stop them. So I want to make sure you understand that right off the bat. And we talk about that because we want to be realistic. Everybody thinks that Their problems are so huge and their problems are so individual. They're so select. They're so specific. They're so them that there is no solution. There's always a solution. And what I want to implore you in this whole workshop today, as we begin to discuss these things, is I want you to begin to reach out to others. I want you to begin to think about, in every obstacle, every problem that you have, how do you reach out to others, and how do you use others, the energy of others, and leverage others' talents, their treasure, their time, in order to create high quality solutions in your situation. The more you know that you can do that, the better off. And I just read a recent study how important it is. This is from Associations Magazine. How important it is for us to, at this point, when we are reapproaching, reimagining, rethinking, and reconditioning, and just open up the workplace in a brand new way, which you should be thinking about doing all the time, by the way. At least once a year, you should be reimagining yourself and your positioning and where you want to go and what you're trying to do. And, make sure you're plugged into your core values and you're doing the things that matter to you, right? Everybody should do that every year. But it's been no time in human history that we can think of and recorded human history that has been more globally, had more of a global impact than the pandemic that we're just coming out of. We're just figuring out how to get our arms around this thing and figure out what we're going to do about it. And so it's changed a lot of how we work. It's changed a lot of who we are and how we show up in the spaces where we show up. And I want to remind you that business as usual is different than it was 2 years ago. And so if you haven't done a personal assessment of any type, if you haven't really dug deep into really understanding where you sit right now, I would always look at the True Voice questions for yourself and use them as an evaluation tool or a assessment tool that you may want to use for yourself, because it's going to tell you a lot about yourself. If nothing else, it will give you what you need to articulate truly, the voice that you're trying to bring and what you should be trying to bring to the universe. And the question now becomes, who needs to hear it? And what do you say once you know and identify people who want to hear your voice? How do you articulate it in a way that's meaningful? And True Voice gives you all that so that you can build trust right away. You shouldn't be sitting around after the pandemic twiddling your thumbs going, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who I am. I don't understand anything. It's all brand new, blah, 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 blah. You should be thorough and take advantage of the time to really do an assessment for yourself and figure out, how you want to represent your brand, how you want to represent your ideas, what do you want to do about the thoughts that you have, how you want to show up. And True Voice does it. True Voice does it in a grand way. And I'm so glad that I created it. And I'm so glad that I stumbled into it, because I didn't say I did it on purpose. I did it as a response to the reality that I was trying to teach people how to network, but they needed to know how to get into relationships before they even knew how to network. So this is a great tool to use. We talked a little bit about obstacles, and we talked already about what I think about your obstacle orientation, right? How you should be looking at your obstacles. And I mentioned earlier that you should be thinking of your obstacles as just a thing that you're going to have to overcome. It's another thing that's in your way, and you have to assess what that's going to be. The other thing I want you to remember today about obstacles is they are always happening. They're always going to happen. There's nothing we can do about them, but you need to have a system. You need to have a system of analyzing the obstacle. You need to have a way of looking at it so that you can now turn it from an obstacle into a challenge, and then from a challenge into an opportunity. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But before we get into it, I want to point you right to the first page of the module. And what you're going to see here in the first top pages of the answers to the next 3 questions on the True Voice process. These are my answers. The bulleted answers that you find underneath the questions are answers that work for me, that work for my business, that work for my life. And these are the things that the ways I would answer those questions. Now, if you think about it, the answers to these questions alone start to help you understand who I am, what I'm all about, and not just what are the obstacles that I face, because the questions are really about obstacles when it comes down to it, but it starts to present a roadmap of ideas and concepts, if you will, that challenge me. And these are things that I could, begin to overcome if I want to just add them to a to-do list, or if I want to make a goal out of a few of these things, of things I need to overcome or things I need to challenge myself with, they are there, right there. I am not ignoring the obstacles. I am looking at them. I am examining them. I'm looking at them straight in the face. And the questions that you might ask, and I'm going to ask you the questions sort of up out loud, but you don't have to write it down or put them in the chat if you don't want to, but just think about them for a second and why the questions are important. Question number 5, in the True Voice process related to obstacles is this. What are the obstacles and challenges that stand in the way of you accomplishing the top 3 goals that you mentioned above? So you think about it. I mentioned in the first couple questions various different vision points and different things you want to do, right? So what are the things, what are the obstacles and challenges that stand in the way of you accomplishing that vision? If you could think about it, there's always something standing in your way. For me, it's finding new nationally recognized champions and recruiting them to my team. That's a significant obstacle, and that hasn't gone away. It may always be an obstacle, right? But it's something I could begin to ask myself questions about what I could do about. Another obstacle for me might be creating a windfall product that will pay enough residual that I don't have to think about, paying bills or anything like that anymore, because I got this process, this product, and it's automatic, and it's out there in the universe, and all I have to do is to show up and collect my checks, right? So being able to create like a website or some type of online training process that's an ongoing, continuous process that already all of the financials are already in there, all of the questions and answers are in there, everything's in there in the MOOC, so to speak, the massive online community, right? It's already engaged, it's already doing the thing it needs to do. All I need to do at this point is continue to monitor it and show up and answer any questions that anybody may have that aren't already answered in some of the question and answer boxes that I put together, blogs that I put together, whatever that is. So, these are just a few of the obstacles that I have to deal with. Number 6, the question is, what are the most important things that you can do to begin to overcome these obstacles? These are the first steps that you could take, right? So if you look at the obstacles, right, you can go back in and go, okay, what are the first steps that I could take to overcome the obstacles? Is there a relationship that I have to be built? Is there something I need to read? Is there a program that I should create? Is there some type of person or relationship that I need to build that will help me overcome this? What is the first step that I should take? Should I just sit down and think about it and plan and organize myself a strategy around it? What should I do? That first step. Once you can identify that first step, that's so magical. Because a lot of people sit around and they just sit in the stew of whatever it is they're in, right? It's like, oh my God, it's overwhelming, it's so much, it's this, it's that, it's that, it's that. If you could just narrow your focus and then begin to go into problem solving mode, right? You begin to look at the obstacle and ask yourself the question, what can I do if anything? If you can do anything, what can you do? Right? That's a great question to think about, because that helps you not just, worry and create gloom and doom scenarios about an obstacle. It helps you face that obstacle and helps you begin to assess the obstacle, how big the obstacle it is, how deep it is, how difficult is it, how much is it going to, what might you do if you have in your best mind, if you had the best resources, if you had everything possible, what would you do? All those things are questions that are good questions to ask around any obstacle. Number 7, what do you need to learn to equip yourself to overcome the obstacle? Right? You know what you need to do. You might figure out some things you might need to do, but amongst the things you need to do is learn. You may need to, pick up a book. You may need to learn to do a different technique. You may need to, figure out how to get involved with some kind of training or some kind of professional development workshop or a series of workshops or something. Like you might want to go on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn's training is amazing, by the way. If you guys aren't using it, you're really, really missing it. But it's important that, you don't just sit there and wallow in the misery of an obstacle, because there's something you can do. There's always something you can do, and there's always something you can learn. And if you understand anything about what I'm going to share with you today, understand that there is no obstacle, that is so daunting, is so overwhelming that there's nothing you can do, unless it's like a natural disaster or something that's has a macroeconomic impact, and it impacts everybody, and there's nothing you can do about it except accept it, right? Those kinds of things do happen. Those what I call, there's a term for it when it's something of the nature, right? It's like a natural disaster, right? There's nothing you can do about natural disaster. You just gotta be in it. But small businesses all over the place are facing all kinds of obstacles. The story that I have here in the chat for you, or in the training for you, is a story, as a harrowing story about a young woman who moved her whole life, uprooted her whole life from Richmond, Virginia, her and her sons, to come up here to Northern Virginia. She had no clue when she left her business, her law firm in Richmond, to come to Northern Virginia, that she would be facing some of the tremendous obstacles that she was facing. Because think about it, no matter whatever happens in a job or new career opportunity, new movements you make, it never works out that it's exactly as you thought it was going to be. Most people find that this is nothing like I thought it was going to be, in spite of the fact that I had like 20 interviews, and I read the job description backwards and forwards and upside down, and I met people on the job and so on and so forth in order before I got on, and I did my analysis and my homework about the career and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you just don't know an experience until you get in it. And at that point, you have to make some tough decisions, because, you know, the environment may have changed, economics may have changed, everything may have changed. And that's exactly what happened when Olivia found herself here in Northern Virginia. She found herself at a mega law firm, never ever ever worked for such a huge organization in her entire life, her professional life at all. She found herself at the beginning of the pandemic, having to figure out how to homeschool her children, basically homeschool, because the internet schooling wasn't really working the way it's supposed to work. And they were as different as night and day. One was 6, one was 10, one was an athlete, one was not. I mean, it could have been a dramatic experience for Olivia. But she had to figure out how to make it work. She had to figure out how to do all the things she needed to do in her job, which required her to hire more people, to create updated workflow systems, to have a new CRM, a new accounting system. And she was responsible for making sure that all the company was supposed to work, even do well. Cry and moan and complain and talk about how deep the problem is. What Olivia had to do is, like most other professionals, she had to realize and learn how to appreciate that the obstacles before her were simply challenges that she needed to overcome. These were barriers, yes. These were roadblocks, yes. These were setbacks, yes. These were things that were making her life difficult, yes. But they're all situations that come back. I had a little hitch in the giddy up there for a second, guys, but it looks like we came back and everything is still working out. It's an act of God. Thank you for correcting me on that one, Nancy. I really appreciate it. When you're facing those kinds of obstacles, there's nothing that you can do about it. I mean, it's just something that you have to learn that it's going to end at some point. If you survive it and you come out on the other side of it, it's going to be over. That's one of the things I love about obstacles. And your perspective about those obstacles need to be relevant, right? You need to make sure that you're owning your own perspective about the obstacle. Sometimes when you face a challenge, you face an obstacle, there are people who are chiming in your ear, right? They're telling you, oh, this is gloom and doom. Oh, this is a problem. Oh, this can't be overcome. Oh, this is so big. And they're making it even worse by exacerbating an already ugly, complicated, convoluted process, right? Something that's you're already dealing with, trying to figure out how to handle it, and they're coming up with nothing but more complaints, right? That's not a good solution. You want to work with people, you want to identify people who help you look at this thing from a different perspective. You want to work with people who can help you figure it out and maybe come up with some different solutions, and may have something that they might want to bring to the table to help you overcome the obstacle. Because if you left it in your own devices and all you're hearing is negative, negative, negative news, that's a recipe for disaster, man. You're going to come up with some depression and some anxiety and some stress that could literally take you out. So you want to make sure you're looking at it correctly. The other thing you want to do with obstacles, you want to understand that an obstacle, for me is like spinach for Popeye, right? When you eat this spinach, right, all of a sudden he's getting stronger. That's what happens to me. Whenever I face an obstacle, I immediately learn to ask myself the question, how is this challenging or empowering me to get stronger? If I overcome this, how much better am I going to be on the other side of it? If I start to think about it, how is it helping me to fulfill my destiny? Because this obstacle is here for a reason. And 9 times out of 10, that reason is not to stop me or to turn me around. This obstacle is there to strengthen me, to hone me. It's there for me to negotiate so that I learn how to grow and get stronger in whatever that is on the other side of the obstacle that I need to experience and understand. That's what I'm there for. That's what it's there for. It's there for me to appreciate the journey. It's there for me to learn to be grateful about the opportunity to overcome the challenge. Obstacles are not necessarily there to create a tragedy for you. They're not necessarily there for you to be worried and concerned and upset over. They're there to test your mettle, to really, really help you develop new systems and new processes and things that's going to strengthen you. Another thing I like to deal with when it comes to obstacles, I like to use obstacles as an opportunity to share. Not just my strengths, but sometimes my weaknesses. When I'm looking at an obstacle that, I don't even know how to approach it myself, I got to think that somewhere in my universe of friends and connections, and there's somebody who knows how to deal with this process. There's somebody who may have fixed a similar obstacle or even the same obstacle somewhere in their past. And all they got to do is start to reach out and ask the question. Now, this probably is the most meaningful thing that I could tell you about obstacle and developing your correct obstacle orientation, right? You want to be able to embrace and share your weaknesses. You got to understand your weaknesses before you can embrace them. And you got to be able to articulate them well before you can share them. And when you're dealing with an obstacle, there's nothing better than an obstacle to clearly define the problem. It's this problem right here. This thing right here is in front of me. This thing right here is causing me to slow down. It's causing me to stop and consider. It's making me think a little deeper about why I'm trying to get to where I'm trying to get to, why this goal is so important, why the mission is so important, why my values are so important. It's making me second guess a lot of stuff that I maybe have taken for granted, right? But when you can put that information out there and you can share or being vulnerable and say, I don't think I have what it takes to overcome this. I'm gonna need some help. Who do I know that I could go to? Who do I know that I could turn to? And if you think about it, there's obstacles in front of almost everything. And there's some things that you can handle all by yourself. You really could handle them all by yourself, but that doesn't mean that you should. Because the things I think you should handle all by yourself are the things that you are already strong in. The things that you can bring along to other people and they can do it, let them do it. Even if you're strong at it, you might be able to put your effort and energy in a different part of the project or a different part of the system or situation that you're trying to deal with and let them handle that, because they need an opportunity to grow. They need an opportunity to shine. They need an opportunity to be stronger. They need an opportunity to show up and be meaningful, do something significant, do something relevant. And you need the opportunity to be authentic and to actually share and care in a way that maybe you wouldn't have had there not been that obstacle that is in front of you. All right. I wrote this one section here about never burdening others. And I want you to understand that this not burdening others is not going against what I originally just said, because I think it might be a little bit, you might figure that a little bit differently. When I mean, you just, Marvin, you just said reach out for help, but then you just said don't burden others. Okay. So understand that you asking someone else for help is not a burden if it's something that they love to do and something that they want to do, and it's something that they really specifically would do for you without questions, right? So that means if you're going to somebody who you have a relationship with, and you're asking them for help, You're asking them to look at your proposal. You're asking them to check out the grammar in your English. So you're asking them to take a look at, some of the ideas that you're having and give you their feedback. Because you're acknowledging that they're an expert in certain ideas or certain concepts. You're acknowledging that they're capable of doing amazing things. When you go to them for help, you're giving them an opportunity to be meaningful, to be relevant, and to be significant, right? You're not burdening them. You're giving them opportunity, but you have to know enough about them to know that this is an opportunity that they would like, they would enjoy, it wouldn't be a burden to them. So you have to have some foresight, right? You have to have some ability to understand exactly what you're doing. And yes, any type of time you're going to deal with an obstacle, it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be rosy. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that you're going to be swinging through the fences and be like, oh, wonderful. I just love it. It's so wonderful. I'm facing obstacles. Most obstacles are challenges, and they're built with, fraught with turmoil and anguish and frustration. And that's a suffering. And in that way, there's a beautiful process that I think I'm going to share with you, just because, it was in the Bible, but I'm going to share it with you anyway here, just because I want you to understand where I'm coming from when it comes to obstacles. In Romans, the book of Romans says, more than that, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. So if you understand that whole paradigm of how you get from suffering to hope, you understand that on the other side of whatever you're suffering, whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is that's bothering you, whatever it is that you're doing, is you're building your endurance as you're suffering. And as you're suffering, you're building your character. Because suffering leads to endurance. Endurance leads to character. Now, let's talk a little bit about what character is and what character isn't. First of all, character is that part of yourself that you resonate with. It's that part of yourself that's uniquely you. It's that part of yourself that represents not just your personality, but your values, your culture, the background that you come from. All of these things are representation and building upon whatever it is your character is. And people need to know what your character is in order to truly trust you. And so the more you are, dealing with obstacles, right, suffering through the process, the more you're becoming aware of what you're made of, the more you're becoming aware of who you are as a person, the more you start to see your character bloom and develop. And others, when they see how wonderful your character is, they're going to start to instill confidence in you. They're going to start to say, oh, wow, look at you. I see you. I see this is what you're all about. I see that you shine in this area. I see that you're special and you're unique and you're gifted and you're talented and you're wonderful in all these different ways. And if you can embrace that, all of a sudden you have hope. Because where people are pouring into you, where the energy of the universe is pouring into you, saying this is what your greatness is, as long as you don't deny it, as long as you embrace it and accept it, you're going to find places where there's hope. And this is the kind of suffering I wish on everyone. Not that weird kind of, I don't know what this is all about. I'm estranged to everything. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. No. The kind of suffering inside of a system of values and trust and principles and ideologies that you can agree with, all of a sudden, that kind of suffering leads you right to hope. And hope is essential. Hope is essential for your ability to carry on. It's essential for your ability to connect and reconnect and drive others and make things happen. If you want to make a way for others, you will have had to make a way for yourself. You've had to somehow establish a foundational foothold in your character that is so strong that you're willing to invite other people in. You're willing to teach other people how to do it. You're willing to show other people how it can happen. Not that it's going to be easy for you to achieve or for you to organize yourself or create the goals you want to create or get to the life you want to get to. None of that's going to be easy. But I think there's something that we haven't taught in sort of the Western lexicon is how to suffer wisely, how to do it in a way that it makes sense. I'm supposed to endure this problem, whatever the problem is. I'm supposed to endure this process, this system. I'm supposed to, suffer through this. I'm supposed to work at it. I'm supposed to, put some effort into it. I'm supposed to, find, some pressure that's on me to accomplish, to achieve, to do. Because if you're not finding that, then I think you're going to find that, growth is not as exciting. It's not as useful to you because you didn't earn it. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything to make it happen. And even if you are entitled, and I say there's nothing wrong with entitlement. If anybody ever tells you that I said anything different, that they're lying. I think that grace is entitlement. And anytime that somebody gives you something that you didn't earn, you have an obligation now to do something with it that's going to be useful for yourself and for others. That's how you use entitlement, so that the entitlement becomes a blessing, not just something that somebody gave you that you didn't really work for or earn, and they just gave it to you because you are who you are. That's how all entitlement works. I hope you get as much entitlement as you possibly can. I hope I get as much entitlement as I possibly can. I want to be blessed. I want people to seek special favor out of me. And this, I want to do what I can to honor the gift, not just earn everything, because I know that there's certain things that are just given to me because out of somebody's goodness of their own heart. Why would I look that in the face and go, oh, well, I didn't earn it. I'm not going to accept this. No, something was put on their heart in order to make that gift in the first place to you, for whatever reasons they gave it to you. Don't dishonor them or the reasons by not being grateful and not look at the situation for what it really, really is, because there's so much that's been given to all of us, right? All day, every day, we've been given gifts all day, every day of our lives. And if we learn to be grateful for those things that have been given to us, that we were entitled to, they didn't have to be given to us, but they were. If we were able to be grateful about those things, think about how we can empower others in the world if we were really able to walk in the light of that grace. And besides suffering wisely, you have to seek and understand that resistance, no matter what you think about it, resistance is something that grows you. If you're not pushing against something, if you're not struggling against something, if you're not trying to pull something ahead, if you're not trying to move something that's heavy or difficult, then I got a feeling like you're not growing. You're not getting stronger. How would you get stronger? How would you get stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, if you're not pushing to grow? You're not pushing to try. So there's all kinds of exercises that I have here in the training module that I'm not going to go over with you today, but I want you to take a look at those exercises, because all the exercises are meant to help you think about things differently, help you write down ideas and concepts that matter to you. You can do this well, then you can overcome almost any obstacle, almost any challenge. Now on page 9, we start getting into some of the great literature that you might find about obstacles that are out there, and some of the quotes that I want to share with you today. I love these quotes. One of my favorites is from Roy Bennett, and it's really the key to all the rest of them. The biggest wall you have to climb is the one you build in your mind. Never let your mind talk you out of your dreams, trick you into giving up. Never let your mind become the greatest obstacle to your success, or to get your mind on the right track. The rest will follow. Think about that. How do you get your mind on the right track? How do you not allow your mind to become an obstacle to your success? How do you keep yourself from tricking yourself into giving up? This is such an important aspect of business, because you have to mind your thoughts. You really do have to be careful about how you conceive everything that's going on, especially how you look at your obstacles. I already told you earlier that you could take an obstacle and you can look at it, and all you can think about it is gloom and doom, woe is me, oh poor me, and you can come up with the worst things that could possibly happen all the time. That's easy. The worst case scenario is always easy to come up with. But it's difficult to look at an obstacle and see everything that there is to know. Just identify everything there is to identify about this obstacle. One of the analysis tricks I like to play is called the SWOT analysis. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And what I found out is that where every strength there is, there's a corresponding weakness. For every opportunity there is a corresponding threat. If every threat is a corresponding opportunity. And for every weakness, for every weakness is a corresponding strength. And so as you start, I sort of list them out in a 4-quadrant area, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And I start to cross-reference them. Okay, does this strength cause any threats to somebody else? Because it might be threat. And my strength here might be threat to somebody else somewhere else. I need to think about that. Who might be threatened by my strength in one area or another? If I'm looking at an opportunity, that opportunity represents opportunity to me. But what weaknesses do I have to overcome in order to maximize the value of the opportunity? Same thing, back and forth. You can keep doing this back and forth, and you'll start to find that you analyze the situation. You look at the situation in every possible way. You start to look at it, and you start to think about it. You start to articulate it to other people. If other people look at it, they perform a SWOT analysis on it, or some other type of analysis. And there are many types of analysis, by the way. They perform the analysis on it, and they look at it, and they tell you what they think about it. And pretty soon, you've got a pretty good handle on what the problem is, what this obstacle really is, how deep it is, how wide it is, how long it is, how far it goes, the implications of it all, how much is it going to cost to overcome, possibly, what resources you might be able to bring to the table. And by the way, once you begin to really truly analyze the situation, you really look at how you're thinking about it and what's going on with it, all of a sudden you'll realize that the resources that you need are closer at hand than you might have thought before you completed your analysis. That's what analysis does. It brings the problem closer to you, and it makes you start to see the resources that you need, more readily, because the problem is close to you. It's not some distance far off. Oh my God, I don't know what it is. It's too big. It's blah, 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 blah. It's something that now you can conceive. You've got a handle on, right? You've minded your thoughts, and you really learn what to do about this. And now that you do it, you know what to do to overcome. You already learned it because you've already done the analysis. In the analysis, you've already looked at it in terms of what the character of it, what it is, what the nature of it is, and you begin to see some of the things that you have to accept in it, and some things that you can just, negotiate or mitigate the risk of it. And then you get onto the business of getting onto it. I love the quotes number 3 here. I think it's on page 10. And the principle here is do it until you can't, basically. And what this is talking about is no matter what you think you're facing in the obstacle, there's only a couple different ways you're going to look at it, or attack it, no matter what. It doesn't matter whether it's an unknown obstacle or a known obstacle, if it's a mystery, or if it's baffling, if it's something that's unique and special. However you look at it, the obstacles, there's only a couple things you're going to be able to do with it, right? It's just like a preposition. There's only a couple of things you can do with it, right? You can go over it, under it, around it, beside it, underneath it, blah, 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 or it can flat out stop you, right? But you got to do something with it. You got to negotiate this obstacle. And the same questions always come to mind. So I always have to come up with a system. And here, for me, the system is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this known impediment, whatever it is, and I'm going to analyze it. We already talked about that earlier. I'm going to analyze it to death. I'm going to figure out, as much as I can. If I got plenty of time, I'm going to take my time and analyze this thing, figure out what it really is, so I can get my arms around it, right? Then I'm going to assess all my resources, the resources I currently have that I might be able to put towards the resolution of this particular obstacle, and negotiating this problem, creating a challenge, whatever I'm going to do. I'm looking at it from what I have to do. And then I'm going to create a plan. If I don't have the resources, I'm going to be looking for other people who have resources. But then I'm going to create a plan. That's not going to be one of these, back of the envelope plans. It's going to be a detailed plan on how I intend to attack this obstacle. And I'm going to break it down to the daily, weekly task list that I have to. I'm going to create a whole project plan around it, right? And I'm going to break it down to the tasks that I have to execute, the resources I'm going to use to execute the task, the timing it's going to take me to execute each of the tasks, and then I'm going to have a schedule for how I'm going to break it all the way down and do everything that needs to be done in order to accomplish the obstacle. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to execute it. I'm going to try to execute as flawlessly as I possibly can. I'm going to use all the discipline, all the character, all the things I need to know to really execute this thing and get it underway. That's what I'm going to do. And when you think about it, that's what you're going to need to do anyway. So instead of sitting around and again wallowing in the obstacle or pity partying yourself, get the business of getting into it and doing it. You're going to practice the kind of introspection that you need to practice when you look at an obstacle. You're going to learn to look at it in a positive, upbeat way. I love that. Elizabeth Gilbert said in Eat, Pray, Love, clearing out all your misery gets you out of the way. You cease being an obstacle. You not only to yourself, but to anyone else. Only then are you free to serve and enjoy other people. Most of the time, the obstacle is you. It's in your head. But if you can wrap your mind around it, you can attack it. You can come up with a different way, different perspectives on it. Then you now own the obstacle. The obstacle doesn't own you. The obstacle is no longer an obstacle. It's just a challenge. And you can begin to look at a challenge in a different kind of light and start to enjoy it instead of looking at it as, oh my God, I got to do this. I hate doing this. I hate that I have to do this. You find the joy in it. You find the joy in overcoming, and you find the joy in getting stronger. You find the joy in moving to the other side of the obstacle, and you get back on the path. It'll energize you to move even further, faster once you've done that, right? But the thing about most of the obstacles that you're going to find out is the resources that you need to pull it off, whether it's a new skill, a new ability, new talent, more money, whether it's more assets or whatever you need. Those things that you now that you're aware of them, you may not have them all. So you need to go out and get them. You need to collect them. Other people have them. So again, back to relationships. If you're building relationships well enough, then you'll be able to tap into and leverage the time, talent, and treasure of others. It'll help you improve your perspective. It'll help you create alignment. Overall, you're going to be wiser than you were before, and you're going to be able to demonstrate greatness. These are all the things that obstacles and obstacle orientation can do for yourself. It can help you really, really discover what you're made of, discover what you can bring to the table, discover who you are and what you want to do to overcome all the things that are going on with you. Nothing wrong with an obstacle. The question is, can you turn it into a challenge? Can you turn it into the next step? Can you get yourself in a new way? It's about 3:56. We've been at this for just under an hour. I'm not going to take a lot of questions today because I don't really feel good. But if you have any questions about anything we talked about, anything that's in the training module, do me a favor, post it in the chat. And I will try to respond, personally if I can. But somebody who's here in the chat with us will also try to respond. So it's good to see you out there. I see all my friends out there. I see Danelle out there. I see Annette out there. Nancy's out there. Guys, I'm so happy that you're hung in there with me and that you logged on today. I really appreciate your time and I appreciate your wisdom. Anything that you had to share with anything, it was really good. I really hope to see you again next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about the next step in the True Voice process, which is commitment. How do you deal with commitment? How do you look at commitment? How do you see a commitment? All the different ideas and thoughts about commitment. We're sharing it all. So I look forward to seeing you guys. You all have a great one. And then we're out. Talk to you soon.